In a bright and busy city filled with constant motion, lived a young man named Ishan. From the outside, his life looked fine. He had a steady job, a small apartment, a group of friends. But inside, there was a quiet storm he never talked about. Every time he scrolled through social media, he saw people his age buying houses, traveling the world, starting businesses. Their lives looked effortless, beautiful, perfect. And with each post, a heavy thought crept into his chest. You're behind. Ishan wasn't lazy. He worked hard. He tried. But somehow, his efforts always felt smaller, less impressive, less seen. At some point, his own progress stopped feeling real because it didn't look like theirs. That's the trap of comparison. It doesn't attack what you have. It attacks how you feel about what you have. And without realizing it, Ishan started shrinking in his own life. Each day, Ishan moved through life with a silent weight on his back. At work, he smiled. With friends, he nodded and laughed. But in his mind, he kept replaying the same thoughts. He's more successful. She's more confident. They're already there, and I'm still here. Even his small victories, a finished project, a compliment from a colleague, felt like nothing when he compared them to someone else's big announcement online. The strange thing was, nothing in his life had actually gone wrong. What had changed was his lens. He was no longer living from the inside out. He was living from the outside in. His self-worth had become a scoreboard, and everyone else seemed ahead. What Ishan didn't realize was that comparison is not just unkind, it's blind. It sees only snapshots, not full stories. It sees the mountain peak, never the climb, and it convinces you to question a journey that was never meant to match anyone else's in the first place. One evening, after a long day filled with overthinking and silent comparison, Ishan sat in his room scrolling through photos again. Someone he once studied with had just bought their second home. Another had launched a startup. His chest tightened, not from hate, but from feeling invisible. He locked his phone and stared at the ceiling. "What am I even doing with my life?" he whispered. That night he couldn't sleep, not because anything terrible had happened, but because he was losing sight of his own path, distracted by the noise of someone else's. If you've ever felt that weight, like your life isn't enough because someone else's seems perfect, subscribe to this channel. These stories are made for people who feel lost in the comparison trap and need a voice that brings them back to themselves. The next morning, something inside him snapped. Ishan deleted his social apps for a week. Not forever, just enough time to breathe, to listen, to look inward. And what he discovered in that quiet would begin to change everything. During that week without noise, something surprising happened. The silence that Ishan had feared slowly became a space for clarity. For the first time in years, he wasn't measuring himself against anyone. He wasn't rushing to catch up or chasing a timeline that was never his. Instead, he started noticing his own pace. He realized that while others were building businesses, he had been quietly building resilience, working 2 jobs to support his family. While others traveled, he had been learning to live with less and find peace in it. His life wasn't behind. It was just different. And for the first time, that felt okay. He pulled out an old notebook and wrote down the things he was proud of, not to post, not to share, but just to see them clearly. Line by line, he reclaimed his story, not the version shaped by outside standards, but the one built by quiet strength and honest effort. And in that moment, he realized something. Comparison hadn't stolen his worth. He had just stopped looking at it. From that day forward, Ishan approached his life with a quieter mind. He stopped rushing through his days trying to catch up to invisible milestones. He no longer felt the need to explain himself or prove his progress. Instead, he focused on making each step his own. Some friends didn't understand his shift. They thought he was moving too slow, dreaming too small. But Ishan no longer measured his success by their reaction. He measured it by peace, by clarity, by how well he could sleep at night knowing he was living on his terms. His goals hadn't disappeared. They had simply changed shape. Now they were rooted in meaning, not in comparison. He celebrated his small wins privately and helped others without needing to post about it. He became someone people turned to, not because he had it all figured out, but because he radiated something rare: calm confidence. Confidence that didn't shout. It just stood quietly and knew who it was. Years later, Ishan looked around at the life he had built, not one shaped by viral moments or other people's timelines, but one deeply rooted in presence. He had grown into someone who understood that real fulfillment isn't loud. It's not a race. It's not a performance. It's quiet. It's deep. It comes when you stop measuring your path by someone else's steps. He no longer felt the urge to compare, not because life got easier, but because he got clearer. He had learned that the fastest way to lose your peace is to look too long at someone else's lane. But the fastest way to come home to yourself is to look inward. He still faced challenges, doubts, setbacks, but none of them made him feel behind anymore. Because he knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. Not early, not late, right on time. And now, ask yourself, are you living your life, or just running through it trying to keep up with someone else's?